Welcome to This Week in Coworking, where industry leaders get succinct, actionable insights. Here are your hosts, Hector Kolonas and Mike LaRosa.
Welcome back to another episode of This Week in Coworking. My name is Mike LaRosa, and I'm joined here with Hector Kolonas. And this is week 51. You can tell we're a little ragged. I'm sitting for the first time. I feel like I'm just completely wiped. We had a great work session and had a lot of fun at the GWA Conference last week in New York. New York at Christmas time is another beast unto itself. I'll tell you that. But yeah, this is going to be our last episode for the weekly recap for this year. How you feeling, Hector? The finish line is right there. Week 52 is next week, and then it all starts all over again with week number 1.
Oh yeah, I really like that thing about doing weekly newsletters. It is once you get the one out, it's okay. Almost immediately, there's a press release on a Friday, and you're like, oh, that should have put into next week. But yeah, it's quite dark now. We're going to say that kind of with a high pitched voice. We're watching behind the scenes nonstop. This last 3 weeks has been a sprint, signing all our partners up for next year. Really interesting things that we're doing. Huge thanks to all the sponsors who've already signed on that dotted line, who've come in, and we're going to be working on some really cool content next year. A lot of the focus is how do we create more succinct insights and spend less time chasing sponsors. So it's been a sprint, as you can tell from our energy levels. I am on like copy 53, on call 92, and podcast, what I think it's like plus 10 or no 20. This is 20th episode I think we're going to be releasing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I chose the big mug this morning. It's the venti size. No, this has been so fun getting to do the weekly recaps. And you say the news is slowing down, but I'm looking here. And there's 55 links in the queue waiting for us to potentially curate and edit and summarize. So we are recording this a little earlier than we typically do in the week. And speaking of, I did have a great conversation with a founder last week while in New York and reminded him that dropping news first thing Thursday morning, maybe do it Wednesday night. That way we can include in those newsletters. So never forget, get us your info by Wednesdays. But all jokes aside, this has been really fun, and we're a little bit loose today with our typical routine, but wanted to just chat and shoot us out on what we're seeing in these trends at the end of 2024, what's coming in 2025. I don't think this would be like a predictions podcast necessarily, but it's one of those things where it's okay. I had someone once tell me a long time ago, once is a fluke, twice is a coincidence, 3 times a trend. And we're seeing a lot of those trends here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I figured today we might just chit chat about what some of the conversations were like that we had at GWA last week, what some of the trends are in the links we're curating now. And my take is it's our mutual soapbox that 2025 is going to be, I think, the year of flex tech. What do you think, Hector?
Absolutely agree. A lot of the links that did come across our feed this week and last week were predictions. So folks that we look up to, we work with, we admire, we partner with across the industry, have all started putting out their predictions. And there's a lot to process. Part of our job is to summarize what is the underlying links between all of these pieces. I think you get it right. Tech and how tech enables new or better business models is going to be the main piece of 2025. But on the topic of predictions, I did put out a piece onto our LinkedIn recap feed a little bit earlier this month. I don't know what date it is today. I think it's close to Christmas. But we did put out a notification that we're not going to be doing a kind of predictions for the new year. Instead, what we're going to do at the newsletter is dig deeply into what we see as undercurrent trends. So trends that are there, they may not be obvious, or they're doing a resurgence, and we're able to pick up on them because of these light connections or interconnections and overlaps between all the links we've shared throughout the year. So we're really excited to dig into those. And under technology, there are so many segments, right? Is it going to need agents all the way down? Is it going to be, what is the future of e-commerce by industry? What does hospitality look like? What does F&B look like? All of these have a technological link, And I think it's going to be a fascinating year for anyone who's running a space and is, oh, we don't do all that technology works. Next year is going to be your challenge is that.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think it has been fun to read what everyone's different predictions and what their guesses are going to be for what the new year is. I think sometimes, as with any industry, similar to those polls, you get in the same kind of vacuum or kind of like you all keep on predicting the same things. As always, this week in co-working deals with matters of fact and newsworthiness, not just our little lowly opinions that we get to share on the podcast. So I think the first thing that I'm gonna bring up is just the need to have a software solution. I think that 2025 is the year that it's no longer really excusable for a co-working operator to say, I don't really need a software to manage my business. And so I think all of you out there listening that run independent, community driven co working spaces, you all are the heartbeat of this industry, and you all are super creative, gritty entrepreneurs. And so sometimes you need to just remind yourself that you need to find something to help you run your business better, not just try to solve what you think is the problem that needs to be solved. And so many times I hear from other folks out there, oh, I don't need this software because I got this, but then they don't have that one last piece, or maybe it's more manual on that. So maybe this year, take a look at your business and understand what we've talked about in the past is the opportunity costs that you're costing yourself in not having that software. So I think maybe 2025 is the year where everyone just gets a minimum platform, right? We're not telling you which one. There are a bunch out there to choose from, but maybe make this year the goal of saying, I've got enough money coming in where I can get at least something implemented. And then that does open up the door to all the other types of opportunities for you to then maybe connect with integration partners or other types of solutions. What say you, Hector?
I mean, it's definitely something that's been ringing true in the conversations I'm having kind of at work at St. Peru. A lot of the conversations are around that minimum viable stack, right? What is the things you need to get towards your next step? But also, what are the revenue channels that are actually costing you more money than they should right now? Processing a request, processing bookings, processing on demand, processing mail, all these things bring in revenue. But if you're spending more than they're bringing in, if you take everything to flat hourly rates of what your space is paying you per hour as an indie operator, sometimes you find that some of the revenue is costing you money. And that is a very scary place to be, especially as we start seeing changes in the neighborhoods around co-working spaces. And I think that's some of the news story we also saw this week, Mike, is what happens when a co-working space becomes too successful? What happens when a co-working space outlives its purpose to reinvigorate a city or a region or a town or a city center? And if you haven't got your financials in place and you haven't got your unit economics working for you, you haven't got the tech that can be transplanted from one physical location to another, you land up in a really tough point. Mike, I think the same thing happened to you right in the beginning of the co-working world.
Yeah.
The tech stack you could move, right?
Oh man, I really do sympathize with seeing for example, the story that Hector is referencing is there's a really well-known government-backed tech startup hub in Sydney, Australia, and they are unfortunately being shut down and relocated. And it just really reminded me of Affinity Lab. And so Affinity Lab was this amazing co-working space that its first location actually opened in 2008, 2009 in Washington, D.C., because the owner of the cafe that was below it was tired of all these people working on laptops on his couches. And then it evolved and moved eastward towards a neighborhood that really wasn't that safe. And then over the course of that 5 years that it was in that place, Ninth and U kind of became the hottest corner in all of DC. And when that lease came up to renew, we did lose that lease because the price doubled. And we managed everything on Google Sheets, right? And MailChimp and took credit cards manually, or do you had to type it in? Yeah. But I think it also speaks to just how fast everything, maybe it hasn't felt so fast because I've been doing this for 10 years or longer, Hector. I can't believe I'm saying that, although the wrinkles are on my eyes will show it, right? And the gray hair, especially on you. But I think technology has finally made these advances where we're seeing posts from other individuals in the marketplace, such as Graham Clark from Baseworks. This is another link that we mentioned in the podcast this week about users expect booking a co-working space to be as seamless as booking a hotel or ordering takeout through basically the Uberization, right? The Uberization of different industries is happening at different pieces. And I think maybe 2025 of being the year of tech in Flex is also the year of now there's tools and solutions out there where people can do this. And as these larger brands continue to roll out their own solutions like Industrious with their partnership with DeskPass or like what WeWork has with their variety of different offerings, you just have to be competitive. Like most boutiques now, even boutique hotels, and I'm making the hotel flex workspace comparison, most boutique hotels are now online. Maybe they weren't at first, and maybe they still don't have their own app like Marriott and Hilton has for their own brands, but they're at least online. They're on different booking platforms. They are using some type of technology to manage guest key cards or whatnot. I think the push this year, it's exciting to see it be driven from a user customer one because more it shows that more and more demand for the product is hitting mainstream, right? We see more and more companies that are turning to flex workspaces, and I can't think of another industry at the moment, maybe like when streaming first hit Hollywood, but we are in the flex workspace industry at a point at a crossroads where competition has never been higher, but opportunity has never been greater. And so, what can you do to really land grab or to put a moat around your business? If we were to Warren Buffett's famous moat strategy, moat for your business could be technology. So, think of it that way.
Yeah, you actually bring up a point where a lot of folks like, if everyone else has the same technology, then aren't we all commoditized on it? But it's not about having the same technology, it's how you bring it into your business processes. Everyone is going to have an integrated stack. It's how all pieces come together. Everyone's going to have a community manager. Everyone's going to have a door access system, right? It's how you piece those pieces together that create that moat, like you said, Mike. But it also touches on another undercurrent that we're exploring for next year, and that's the different types of partnerships and business models, right? Those in themselves, it's less of a land grab and more about kind of innovative ways to really take or enter new markets that up until now weren't co-working markets. We've seen a huge growth this year in residential plus co-working. Multifamily operators not doing their own kind of empty lobby thing where they do in a bunch of buildings, bringing in skilled operators to activate that. We're seeing that in co-warehousing. We're seeing it in F&B. We're seeing all these new pockets of co-working models that are technology enabled because we're seeing more and more spaces that are serviced but unmanned or unstaffed. And all these pieces come together to create a really big opportunity for operators who are exploring what does 2026 look like? Everyone had this theory the whole year, this year, survive till 2025. Now is the point where the next generation of leaders, the next industry leading organizations are looking at 2026, 2027 and thinking about what they need to do today to get there.
Yeah, if I were to say survive till 2025, if I had to come up with 2026, maybe would be make that booking quick in 2026. Or I don't know if that perfectly rhymes, but it just goes to show how people they want to find something now. And the experience that I've had selling on demand and flex workspace to occupiers tells me that this really is a time-based decision sale as well. If you don't have what I need right now, I'm going to go to someone else. And even if you get back in touch with them 4 or 6 hours later, they've probably already booked something else. That's just a matter of the flex business. And what you're saying, Hector, touches on another inclusion in this week's recap is this great LinkedIn article from Nick Levine is basically just gradually, then suddenly how flex is growing. And he does a really great recap, very thorough, deep dive into just the machinations, whether it be for better or for worse. Sometimes independent co-working operators or those of us that are in this industry forget how big of a kind of ecosystem and universe that we are in commercial real estate, and where things take a while to move. And there's deals that I've been working on that have taken close to 2 years to finally get buy-in from all these different partners, stakeholders, investors, the banks that hold the note, the operators. There's multiple different parties involved. And it, like I said, I know sometimes it can be frustrating and it might seem like it's been taking forever, but we really are seeing major movement now, even though it might be like at that glacial pace. Not to be too negative of a connotation and a reference point, but we are trying to re-steer the Titanic. It just takes a while to move, right? And make sure that we avoid that iceberg in the industry or that elephant in the room.
Absolutely. And yeah, we are very much in an oil tanker type of industry. It takes us, we will get where we need to go. It's just going to take us a little bit of a turn. And we're definitely, as I said, we're definitely seeing that. We're seeing capital markets reassess what co-working is valued at. We're looking at banks writing loans to buy buildings for flex. We're seeing REITs left and center here in the US and over in Australia and the UK. We're seeing funds being built to buy great buildings, old buildings, and turn them into this mixed use workspaces. We're seeing HSBC's building being turned into that gorgeous futuristic tower that they want to build there with the holes in it. All of these things are coming together to create an even bigger opportunity that I think only the most outrageous or audacious of us dare to dream how big this could all become. But on that note, there is just so much change happening. And I'm just really excited that we get to be part of the storytelling part of that on this side of our lives. But yeah, when it comes to the actual implementation, our day jobs keep us very busy.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think that there's a level of enjoyment I take through the stress, knowing that it's how awesome is it that we get to be part of the story and that we're not reading about it 75 years from now in some type of tell-all book. Who knows? And I think it also goes to, I get mocked sometimes for saying this, but once again, this is Adam Newman wasn't wrong. Could have been a far more tech-enabled company. Maybe it didn't deserve the true valuations of a purely SaaS product without taking into consideration the assets or the liabilities that it had physically. But this is where things are going. Everything is going to be a tech business, right? Take a look at Hollywood and streaming, take a look at all different types of hospitality. And even to another story that we have in the recap this week is Navan put out a really cool report on business travel and why business travel is not just back, but it's booming. And this goes to a point where I wish we had been doing this podcast for a long time, Hector, because I would have pulled out a saying that I had in 2021 where the road warrior was decreasing and the never traveler was increasing, right? And so you might not have that 52, or in my case, I did 56 flights this year, which is like insane, right? So you might not have that 52 a week traveler anymore, or 52 flight a year traveler. So and so that never used to travel might be traveling 4 times a year. So there was going to be this overall shift. And Navan has been rumored, like I said, This Week in Coworking, we don't talk about rumors, we only talk about news. So I don't want to mention who, but Navan is discussing about how they incorporate Flex Workspace into their portal. It's just a natural extension of how to plan a business trip. And we've had Phil on, who had an awesome conversation with you, talking about considering even searching for local co-working space as a micro mini business trip, right? And the experience that you and I had last week, it worked really well. We knew where we needed to meet, opened up Desk Pass. What do you know? There's a space. It just so happened to be relatively new. I hadn't seen it before, checked it out, and it worked great. But it was that seamless process of having the app, having it confirmed upon booking and getting in okay. We weren't stuck outside trying to unlock the door. I know we're talking in circles here. I think it's just a example of how exhausted this end of the year has left us, but it's just another thing to consider that you do need to be on all the platforms, right? And so let's talk about what it takes to do that efficiently, effectively, without making yourself feel overwhelmed. And you do need to know where all the different buyers are And so when we say be on all the platforms, we're not just talking about your typical desk booking platforms, where we're also talking about these other types of solutions, what Hubly's done with Amex Business or Global Business Travel, and what Navan is trying to solve for themselves. Yeah, I don't know if people want to keep on listening to us just diatribe on, and we don't need to keep that going. But what are your thoughts, Hector?
I mean, yeah, it's not to keep on the same topic, but just to highlight what you mentioned there, it isn't that the same set of buyers have multiple apps. It's that each niche is being fought over dating by numerous platforms. And if you want to secure that revenue, that business, that opportunity, if it's right for your space, right? I'm not saying you should list on, like, we do a lot of work with aggregation strategy for our customers at Singaru or our partners at Singaru. And it's not always the best strategy to be on everything, but to be on everything that matches your ICP or ideal customer profile. Who do you want to be using your space, and how do they think about space? And just to foreshadow a little bit about next year's trends, I do think we're going to start seeing more and more iterations interfaceless bookings. So these are people who are not going to open a page, not going to search for your space, not going to use a map, not going to select the desk. They're going to do something somewhere else, and your space is going to get booked. So you just have to think ahead. If that's the kind of customer you want to be in that transactional brand building hospitality industry, that's where you have to start looking. But if you don't, and you only want to do community and you want to battle your members, there are other platforms where you want to be on, you want to put that information front and center. If you want to be the coolest cat in town or coolest space in town, you still have to be found by those ideal customers. Yeah. I think I'll summarize that with a nice little bow on it. There's a lot of new people looking at the industry, and if you want to be in front of them, you have to think about what is your strategy for being discovered, to being bookable, and then to servicing those customers and their expectations. And that goes back to what we were saying, Phil. A lot of corporates are experimenting with co-working. They come in and they're like, this is not for us. What is the strategy then? Do you ship them to another space? Do you ship them to a partner space? Do you put them to someone in your alliance? Don't drop the ball on that, because someone else could pass the right customer to you. So there's a whole lot of thinking behind that. If you haven't, and you've got some time over the holidays, go to thisweekincoworking.com and listen to the, I think it's 9 episodes now of just valuable insights that we've gotten from operators all across the world, including Phil, who dove into this a bit more with me a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it could be so overwhelming. I'm so glad that you brought it up. Not every platform is perfect for every space. And I believe firmly in the power of no as much as the power of yes. And it's something that I take away from a long time ago. The Kansas City Co-working Alliance had an unwritten rule amongst all of its members that if someone came to your space and wasn't totally sold on that being the right fit, or if you could tell, and a lot of times independent operators can know you're like the space, or maybe it's not for you. They always had a promise that they would send them to another space or two to try to say, hey, listen, just like different hotels or different vibes on my space might not be for yours or whatnot. And I think it's also, like I said, it's so overwhelming, but it's also exciting to see all these different people that are so passionate and driven. And the work that you do at Syncaroo is awesome, Hector. People know about it. I love the team I work with at Proximity, but also all these other platforms out there have really excited people. Michael Everts is now at Yardi working on the Yardi Cube product. Tio's been a co-working leader at Cobot. It was so refreshing last week just to meet some people that I had been seeing from afar online. For example, FlexSpace.ai had a really cool announcement that they are now rolling out this integration to connect your platform with a bookable link on Google Maps, which is so powerful. Think about how many times I actually use Google Maps primarily as like my search engine for like restaurants or certain businesses, right? Because I know that everything's going to be there, the website, the phone number, and then there's always the Resi link to connect you to the Resi app. Well, guess what? Now FlexSpace.ai has that connectivity, right? And so it's just so fascinating to learn. FlexSpace.ai does not do a full-blown platform, but they do certain things that then can plug into what you have to help make that business better, right? Whether it be connecting it to the Google Maps cards, or even now what I understand is dynamic pricing, which is another interesting model. Yeah, not to keep on repeating what we keep on saying, but I think 2025 is like the year of just like tech exploding when in this industry and people really leaning into it. And I think that there will be some consolidation, or there will be some type of kind of not reset of the landscape, but there's most definitely going to be some winners, and I don't want to use the word losers, but those that are maybe looking for exits or whatnot. So it will be a really fascinating year, and I'm so grateful that we've got a perch here to view it from. And please do, keep on listening to us. Who This is really the best source to find out what all's going on. We appreciate everyone that's tuned in so far, and make sure you do share these episodes with those of you, your colleagues in the industry. It's much appreciated.
Absolutely, Mike. And it's been a pleasure kind of having these conversations with you, digging in. Already next year, we have a whole lineup of guest co-hosts who will be joining us here on these recap shows. Many of them from our partners, many of them just to share their opinions on what's happening at their companies, what's happening in their competitive landscapes. So we're really excited for like where content is going next year, but you can't really think about ahead without looking a little bit back, right?
And
So I just want to share some quick stats about this year. We've just passed 700,000 clicks in total that we've sent to the links that we've shared in our newsletter. People who know our newsletter know that we're not about hoarding content. Our job is to send you to the things as quickly as possible so you can get the insights you need to make better decisions in your business. And I'm so happy that we've managed to make that action happen 700,000 times. Really, this year alone, we actually saw 342,000 clicks. That's up from last year at 269,000 clicks. So a nice little bump there. We did a lot of work on curating and making a tighter engine this year, as opposed to kind of clickbaity stuff that maybe was in previous years. And I just want to thank the 437 new subscribers who joined us this year. You join, that's the email core, that's 437 leaders normally who get the email and then rebound it through their organization every Thursday and every Friday. So just a huge thank you to everyone who's become part of our community, who's joined us here on audio channels and the video channels. Mike, we have a lot of cool content planned and some new types of collaborations for next year. Well, it's just been a fantastic year. I'm very, very grateful for everyone joining us on this mission.
Yep, couldn't have said it better, Hector. I'm looking forward to what we've got in store, and I think some well-deserved rest. So we are going to take a break from our weekly recaps, but you best believe there will be newsletters in your inbox on Boxing Day, and I believe to kick off the first of the year on the right note. So we'll see everyone back here for our weekly recap episode the week of January 6th. And in the meantime, we hope you enjoy some of these great interviews that Hector and I have been able to have.
Absolutely. Have a fantastic holiday, everybody, and we'll see you and your businesses next year.